Welcome back to Small Caps. Kerry Stevens here, bringing you something that I love. You know I all love it, ladies and gentlemen. It's gold. And joining me today is Jonathan Lea. He is the Managing Director of the new kid on the block, OZZ Resources, spelt OZZ. Now, what's great about that is you can't forget it because the ASX code is OZZ. So joining me today, Jonathan Lea, Managing Director from Perth over Zoom. Good to see you on Small Caps. I'm excited to learn a little bit about you guys because you're the new kid on the block because you only listed in July and here we are chatting in August, but you've been pretty darn busy. So before we get into the sort of the nuts and bolts, let me just ask you to give our listeners a brief overview of who are OZZ Resources.
OZZ is a Western Australian gold-focused exploration company with some great assets all in Western Australia. We incorporated about the middle of last year and we put the company together, the chairman and myself, and we listed on July the 5th. We have 5 projects in Western Australia, all gold, although one of them does have nickel potential as well. And we are aimed at finding new gold ore bodies and doing it quickly and efficiently.
I like that, doing it efficiently and quickly, and you have been doing it quickly. Before we get into sort of the drilling and what you've been doing, because that's what shareholders love and investors love to hear about, how did you get these 5 projects? Was it from prospectors or because great ground in a really good location, and you got 5 of them? How did that come about?
It was largely from prospectors. Both the chairman and myself have contacts in industry because we've been in the game a long time. Right. And it took sort of 4 or 5 months to put all the ground together, but we started, as I said, about the middle of last year, and by the end of the year we had the 5 projects put together, and they all did come from prospectors.
All came from prospectors. Okay, so there you go. It's about knowing who to talk to in this game, isn't it? So you've got these 5 projects. Let's talk, if we can go through them one by one, and then I'll ask the questions as we go along. So what's the first one we're going to start with?
We'll start with Maguire's, which is the one we've just finished drilling. So as we said, we listed on July the 5th, and we started drilling about within 10 days' time. And we have just finished our first drill campaign at Maguire's, which was 4,300 metres of RC drilling. Okay. Because of the backup in assay labs, we're still waiting for the assays to come through, but we expect to get them all through in September, and obviously we'll be releasing results as they come through. The Maguire's project was drilled before, about 20 years ago, by BHP. They were looking for something a lot larger than, and in those days the gold price was a lot lower. So we're retesting a non-JORC resource that they identified 20 years ago. And we expect, and so we know there's mineralisation there, and the aim is to do this drilling and then get hopefully a JORC compliant resource out by later this year. So it's been a rapid start to the drilling, and we also will follow through with the resource work in the next 2 or 3 months. So and then we'll have our first resource. I guess with regards to Maguire's and some of the other projects, that we're open to ideas about how to develop them. We're not specifically looking at building our own plant. And if there's an opportunity to get it toll treated or sell it to a nearby plant, we will certainly look at that. And given that virtually all our projects are close to existing mills and within trucking distance, it means that we have the opportunity of looking at toll treatment. So, and that's the beauty of acquiring ground in priority jurisdictions like around Kew and Meekatharra, where a lot of the projects are. And we've also got ground over near north of Kalgoorlie, near Leonora. So
where's Maguire's?
Maguire's is north of Kew and about 40 kilometres off the highway between Kew and Meekatharra.
Okay, and you mentioned that 20 years ago BHP did some drilling. Are you able to share any of that historical drilling? Was it quite high grade, or was it?
They put out a non-JORC resource of about 20,000 ounces roughly. There's been subsequent work to that which suggests that there's an exploration potential on that ground of north of 100,000 ounces. So we've gone back in it's a geological contact with quartz veining and shearing. It's actually on the northern extension of one of the splays off the Big Bell Fault. Now, the Big Bell mine lies to the south, so we're on one of the northern extensions of the faults which run through Big Bell. So it's a very good address. It's very prospective. As we know, there is gold there, and they were getting assay intervals up to 4 or 5 grams over 5 to 10 metres in the past. So we would expect to replicate numbers in that order in some of the drilling at least.
Okay, so you've done 4,300 metres of drilling. You're waiting for the results to come back, which should come back in September, you said?
Yep.
When you get those results back, are you going to go back in and do some more drilling on Maguire's, or will you move on to the other projects?
In the short term, we'll move on to the other projects. As I said, we'll be doing the resource estimation work on that in the months following the results coming back. And once we've done the resource, that will give us some idea about if there are extensions we can drill, and either at depth or along strike. And also on Maguire's, there is a parallel structure which is about 1 kilometre to the west of the old prospect structure we drilled, and that has only had a couple of drill holes in it, but it does have workings on it. So our next drill campaign might well be to not only fill in any work at Maguire's that we need, but also to test that other structure as well. So there's definitely more potential there that needs to be tested, and it's just a case of prioritising the work as we can.
Yeah, and for our listeners, by the way, that you raised $5 million when you were listing, so there's plenty of cash in the bank to get on with this drilling, which I think is important for people to know.
Absolutely. As we said, we started quickly, and our focus is to put the money in the ground and be very efficient in how we do it.
Excellent. All right, so the maiden drilling underway at Maguire's, waiting for those results to come back. So what's next?
Okay, we also in July, we completed an aeromag survey over 2 of the other projects, which were over the Peter Wangy project and the Rabbit Boar project. Rabbit Boar lies only about 15 kilometres away from Maguire's, sort of again north of Kew between, and that's an exploration licence which has 5 kilometres of untested greenstone. There has been soil sampling carried there in the past, and that's the project that has both gold workings on surface which have never been drilled, but also has an ultramafic there that has anomalous nickel, and there's also been anomalous cobalt found through that 5 kilometre belt as well. So we're looking at, as the next program, getting in there and probably doing some infill soil sampling just to get the sense of where the best targets are, and then that will probably be our next drill target, which might be late this year or early next year. And
sorry to interrupt you, John. That's Rabbit Boar, is it, or is that
Boar? Yeah,
that's Rabbit Boar. Okay.
So that, as I said, has both gold and nickel potential. It is a 5 kilometre greenstone which has never been tested, and also it too lies on the northern extension of the Big Bell Fault. So it's again the same geometry as Maguire's. It's prospective, but this one hasn't been drilled, and we'll identify the targets. And as I said, we just completed an aeromagnetic targeting survey over that ground, and that work identified about 5 targets, or priority targets on that belt, and so that they allow us to focus in on where we'll be both looking at the forthcoming soil sampling programs, but also potentially drilling after that.
And okay, so that's Rabbit Boar. What about Peter Wangy?
Peter Wangy, that's an interesting prospect. It's never been drilled. It was the site of Western Australia's first gold rush in 1868.
Oh, really?
So it's got a number of shafts and workings there, and it's never been drill tested. It's only about 100 kilometres inland from Geraldton, near sort of Mullawa in that district. And there's a 3 kilometre greenstone which lies enclosed in the granite, and it's also on the major structure which separates the you and me in the southwest terrain of the Yilgarn Craton. So it's got a major structure running through it. It's a greenstone. It's obviously got gold there because it was the site of a gold rush, and it's never been drill tested. So we...
sorry to interrupt you again, John, but if that was where do you find gold where it's been found before? How come no one else has drilled this? How did you go? I mean, you mentioned that you spoke to prospectors and you got good connections. It's never been drilled.
Okay, it's interesting. The part of it, because it doesn't lie in that sort of the greenstones around Coolgardie, Kalgoorlie, Southern Cross, it was probably ignored to a degree, and also partially because it is covered by freehold land. So there was a period there where the owners didn't want exploration on the ground. That attitude has changed now, and we're just finalising. Well, hopefully in the next month we'll finalise access agreements, but there's certainly positive expectation there. And once that's done, we'll be able to go in and do some work. There has been some geochem over there, which has produced some interesting anomalies. As I said, the Aeromag as well has identified another 6 anomalies over that ground. So we've got the targets, we've got the greenstone, we've got the gold workings, and we'll be going in and possibly doing a bit more geochemistry, soil sampling, and then looking at RC drilling. It's also covered by laterite as well, the laterite and more recent cover sort of tends to shroud the underlying rock a bit. And one of the other reasons with the gold rush out of interest, that it's the rush started in 68, but then the other targets around Western Australia came to the fore, like Coolgardie, etc.
Yeah.
And everyone moved on, but it was harder work there to get through the overburden, and a number of the shafts collapsed. And even though they identified some fairly significant quartz veins at depth, so it was always hard from a water perspective and a rock stability perspective to open them up. So a few people, there have been a number of periods since 1868 where a few people have tried, but it's never really had the attention it deserves.
Well, that actually, and quite often, these ones that have been untouched and unloved are the ones that can deliver quite an interesting opportunity for investors as well.
Exactly. No, it's a very exciting project, and it's hard to know what it could be, but it certainly could be significant.
Yeah, I can sense there's a little bit of excitement underlying in that comment. But anyway, you've got 2 more to talk to me about.
Okay, the other one's Wadabi South is west of Meekatharra. It too is a project that's never had any drilling on it. It lies on it's largely underlain by greenstone with good structural preparation, good faulting running through it, and near to the granite boundary which runs through the southern part of the leases. There are old workings in the area. There are which have never been tested. It's largely covered, so and there's been wide space geochemistry through there, but the cover probably prevented anything, shrouded the numbers a bit, or the geochemistry. So it's got a great location. It's geologically got all the right attributes. There are old gold workings there, and it's a case of getting in and starting, basically from scratch there. So we're looking at flying an Aeromag survey there probably in October to help identify the geology, and we'll also be using field techniques like mapping and sampling and to identify the targets, and that'll lead into geochemistry / possibly air core RAB drilling probably next year. But that's got great address, good potential, and we'll be looking at that in coming months as well. And the last project is the one near Leonora, which is Mount Davis.
Yeah.
So that's a collection of prospecting licenses. It sits on a major shear, which is one of those major structure which runs up through Leonora, and it has millions of ounces associated with it. And the shear, it's been drilled at the northern end at what was called the Trig deposit, again going back 15 years. That there's a small non-JORC resource there of 10 to 20,000 ounces. and there's another 4.5 kilometres of the same structure down to the south, which has never been drilled. So our aim is to do the targeting work there, and there's another parallel structure there as well, and there's a number of old workings through the area. So it's very close to a major mining centre at Leonora. So we've got the potential to add to that trig resource, and certainly or non-JORC resource, and then look at toll treating at Wangy or one of those surrounding mills. So it's, again, it could be quite substantial, that project. And we'll be drilling that. We're hopeful to drill that later this year as well, if we can.
Goodness me, you guys are busy. You've got 5 children. How do you choose which is the favourite child? I mean, John McGuire's.
It's in many ways a good opportunity. It's it's a good thing to have. We have no shortage of things to drill test. We're going through the approval processes on a number of them already, and we will be actively on the ground in one form or another over the next 6 to 12 months on those projects.
Well, you certainly got lots of work ahead of you. Now, your chairman is Alan Lockett. John,
Absolutely,
have you and
yes,
Alan worked in the past together, and why did the two of you decide to put this?
It was purely
together?
Through a common someone we both knew. Alan was looking at setting up a new gold exploration company, and we had a common acquaintance, and he put us in touch because I'd actually just left West Africa because of COVID and came back to Australia, and so I was at a loose end, and the timing was perfect, and it all worked out. So and we've worked together well since then, and as you know, put the company together.
Okay, so any challenges with, I mean, as I said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, these are the new kids on the block, but they're not letting the grass grow under your feet, are you? Because you're doing aeromag surveys, you're doing drilling. What do you think is Maguire's your favourite? I mean, I'm just trying to understand, are they all equally important, or do you think one's potentially got more potential than the others? From an investor point of view.
Maguire's obviously, because Maguire's intrigued because there's mineralisation that's already been identified there by previous drilling. So right. It's sort of, they have the most, I'm confident there will be resources on those, JORC resources on those prospects. And it's just a matter of how big and how long it takes us to get there. But as I said, hopefully we'll have Maguire's done by later this year. The other projects, like as I alluded to, Peter Wangy, could be something a lot bigger because there's more space there, there are bigger projects, and they're not tested. And both Peter Wangy, Rabbit Boar and Wadabi South have a lot of potential, and we're excited about where they are and what they could be. But I think you do the obvious things first, and we do the obvious things first and work through as we can. And
when you say, sorry, John, when you say you do the obvious things first, for those who are out there listening, what are they might not know what you mean by that. What do you mean the obvious things?
I guess you drill where you think there's gold, so that you can add value to the company and increase your resource base. So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about chatting to you today because, as I said at the start, you're the new kids on the block, but you've got a lot of work that you're doing out there, and you're not letting things go. You're just getting on with it. What would be interesting to hear now is, where do you think, because you've got the funds, you're doing the drilling, why do you think now is a good time for investors? Now, I'm going to say to you, give me 3 reasons. 3 reasons why you think now's a good time for investors to sit up and take notice of OZZ, or I should say OZZ, ASX code OZZ.
Well, we clearly believe we have a great ground position. We have some 5 very good projects, and on top of that, we are always on the lookout for other people. We're still talking to our network to try to increase the number of projects, and if we can find other projects that increase the value and potential value of Oz, we will take them up. But the projects we've got are all located in premium gold project areas, and we have high hopes, as I said, of producing JORC resources in the coming months and year. we're very active, as you know, and you've alluded to. We started drilling within a couple of weeks of listing. We'll be drilling again hopefully later this year. We're spending a lot of our money in the ground or on the ground.
Yeah.
And obviously when you drill, you find things. You don't
absolutely
don't find it by leaving the money in the bank. As I was actually reading an article yesterday about Wayne Gretzky, and he said that his famous quote was that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So we intend to take as many shots as are justified to try and identify more gold resources.
Now, you guys have got skin in the game as well, have you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're both Alan and myself and the other non-exec director Brian McNabb have shares in the company, so it's in our interest to find something. And I guess the third reason, which is good to invest in at the moment, is we're actually waiting for results. We've done the drilling. We will be getting results in September. So, and given the fact we're drilling around an area which has previously shown good results, we expect to, at least partially replicate, if not improve upon those. So we certainly hope to get some good numbers out in the next month.
Well, and also it's not very long till September. This year is going so fast. So you're going to have results out imminently by the sounds of it. So watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. John Lea, it's been really interesting to talk to you. As I said at the start, this is the new kid on the block, but they know what they're doing. They're putting the drill bit into the ground and getting on with working. So, John, thank you so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
You're very welcome, Kerry. Good to talk to you.